Hi, everybody. This is Susan and Nick, and we are from SuperSTAR Communicator podcast and the live stream. Beginning of 2024, we thought that we would just have a quick discussion about things that are going to be trends in 24 and from what people are anticipating and what we feel are very important points. So, Nick, you share one point that you think is really important.
Yeah, I'm interested in the rise of the use of AI,
Yeah.
especially with LinkedIn and general art and writing, and how AI will develop into this kind of um, popular use of being used to make CVs and that kind of thing. I know that when I was doing my master's degree, there was a big debate about how not to use AI in your academic papers because they can pick up on that, but perhaps AI will become more sophisticated and able to write more uniquely. So that's one thing I'm looking out for.
Yeah, I think that it does play a role. It can be very, very useful if you're doing research. But we know that the AI at the moment is citing papers, research papers, and they're made up ones that they put the number in and the date, and actually there's no paper there. Um, from my point of view, I do use AI for a starting point if I'm wanting to research a particular topic, to write a blog or an article. And also for the podcasts, I use Cast Magic so it can pick out particular points from the podcast, which is really, really helpful. Um, and I've got read.ai. So if I've got meetings, that is analyzing the content and summarizing it at the end. So it can be a really useful tool. But I absolutely understand what you mean in the arts. O- All of the strikes in Hollywood were related to that, related to the fact
Yes,
that AI.
they were big companies were trying to use developed AI to write scripts and then get writers to freshen them up and that kind of thing. So it's there's a clear fight back against the technology. I know that one of the journalist companies and certainly art and um, the companies that the AI was referencing and using information from are suing the AI companies because the AI just freely uses that information without asking for um, the references.
Gosh, I didn't realize that. Was certainly I am learning German with an app called Duolingo, and they have just sacked a number of translators. Um, and those that are left apparently are having to check the AI. That is their role now, rather than being proper translators. It's an interesting one. We're going through a whole change, aren't we? Are there any other changes that you feel are happening that might impact superstar communicators?
Um, Yeah, I think the uptake of traveling and particularly people moving because of remote work, moving country so that they can uh, sort of live in a cheaper place whilst doing the same work and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, in the last year, there have been lots of companies that have been trying to push people back into the office. And there are huge advantages of that because you are learning lots of things, you're connecting with people. The challenge is that many people don't want that lifestyle. And how do you keep them connected to what's going on in the office? And also, How do you make sure that their talents are still recognized, that they're not missed out? And that's partly down to good communication, isn't it?
Yeah, and what would you say your interest in remote work is?
Well, mine particularly. I mean, I've got a studio at home, although I've got shared office space as well this year because I want to have the buzz of working around other people. Uh, you know, I started doing this 4 years ago now, and I've connected with people all over the world, something that I would not have been able to do had there not been this option. And it certainly enhanced my business. I think that for talented people, though, my concern is that if they're not in the office, they might not be visible. And the organization might be missing out on talent, and those individuals might be missing out on career acceleration.
Mm.
So it's for that reason that I'm particularly interested.
And also,
One
you
thing.
sort of don't really establish those work relationships as well as you might, because there's no idle chit chat. There's the analogy of the water machine conversation where you're just speaking about anything really, and you don't particularly get to know your co-workers.
No, you don't. And you know, back in the day when I was younger, people went on team building events to try and get to know each other. And it would always be something, you know, very macho, go-karting or climbing high wires and things like that, which many people didn't want to expose themselves to the fact that they were terrified. Um, and that was a real problem. But you know, just the simple thing, as you say, of having a water cooler conversation is really important. And I'm a great fan of the traitors. And I know that there are people that I will be WhatsApping tonight about the things going on, the twists and turns, but it's not quite the same as sitting in front of someone else and having a giggle about those things.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
and
all
I
about.
think I know that my friend who lives in Scotland, he's a programmer, and he does do work related holidays. Going to, I think he recently went to Czech Republic. So I think
Wow.
that companies still do that kind of uh, work holidays, but it's not the same impact because he lives in different countries to his co-workers.
Yeah, so there's going to be a language barrier and possibly cultural one.
Mm,
I think I think maybe we need to have a discussion about this separately as as another podcast,
mm,
do some research on this and cite and some examples. Something that I highlighted late last year was that people's the etiquette around telephone conversations and phoning up people is very different than it was a few years ago. Now, Kira, hi, Kira. Good morning. Lovely to see you. If you've got a question, let me know. I shared an article about telephone etiquette at the end of last year, and I feel that this is something that would be great to discuss in 2024, and that is how we communicate people what is reasonable. Before, you would pick up the phone if you needed to talk to someone, but now that's being perceived as, hang on, I'm working at the moment. It's not it it's a real nuisance. I'm being interrupted. So is it that you warn people, you arrange a time, which seems um much more, takes much more. Do you WhatsApp them? Do you text them beforehand? Hey, can I just have a quick chat? Do you use a voice messaging service? All of those things, and this is changing, isn't it? And I'm just about in my LinkedIn newsletter next time. I'm going to be talking about what is reasonable? Is it reasonable on Christmas Day that somebody contact, "Oh, Merry Christmas, and by the way, can you send me this on Christmas Day?" Is that reasonable or is it not reasonable? Is it reasonable that you have an automated email that says, "I'm not back in the office until the 2nd of January," and yet you get people WhatsApping you, "I need this." I is that reasonable? Is it okay to say, "I am off planet at the moment, work planet. I'm having a break. Please respect that. I will deal with it when I come back."
Mm.
What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, there's certainly you got to create boundaries, otherwise,
Yeah,
especially if you're the boss and people are going and sending in invoices. But I
yeah,
think, yeah, you have to, if people aren't aware of what they're doing and you're with family, there's no point in replying to that kind of thing.
yeah, but it can wind you up if suddenly on your private messenger you get
Mm,
that. Is it reasonable? Does there have to be some accountability by the person sending that?
mm,
Yeah, interesting. And
yeah,
maybe that's something we can discuss. Certainly from the point of view of the things that we have coming up in the next few sessions, we will have a brilliant person who talks about storytelling, and he's got his own app that can really get people to start thinking about their story, their mission, their why, their purpose. Some things on managing change, and maybe we need to have another session like that, this, where we discuss a particular topic from the perspective of Gen Y and Gen Z, sorry, Gen X and Gen Z, because it's interesting to see the different perspectives.
mm.
So before we finish, is there anything you'd like to share with the Superstar Communicator audience?
Um, Yeah, I'm just looking forward to discussing different topics. This year, it looks like there's going to be a lot of change, perhaps politically or with technology. So it's interesting to see things unfold.
I agree with you. And I would also add that we need to make sure that as human beings, we maintain the human connection.
Mm,
So if we're working remotely, how can we make sure that the human connection is still there? Either it's videos, sound samples of us speaking, but all of those things. And we will discuss these things over the year. So thank you very much for watching, and we look forward to connecting with you in future. Take care. Bye-bye.